Good afternoon and welcome back everyone to the next session of the Automation Days Asia 2021. I'm particularly pleased to introduce our new speaker, Floor van der Wind, who will start to talk about low code and how that relates towards automation. This is really, in my opinion, a fascinating case study of the way and speed with which you can use automation to start developing applications that really have a true use case in day-to-day automation. Let me start with giving a brief introduction about Floor. Floor has a strong passion for digitalization and innovation. He tackles challenges, motivates people, and provides objective guidance and encouragement for their activities. Floor began his professional career in the Netherlands, working for Volkers Wessel and one of their startup companies. Then he started specializing in innovation and IT and moved towards Singapore in digital advisory for KPMG Management Consulting. Nowadays, Floor works as a solution delivery manager for APAC at OutSystems, and he's bringing a wealth of expertise around automation best practices to present in the session today. It's a very great pleasure to welcome Floor towards this session, which he will be presenting from Singapore today. Floor, the floor is all yours, and good luck with your session.
Great, thank you, Jan-Willem. Thanks for having me, and thank you for the possibility to have here this presentation and share my experience. Like I said, it's an honor to be part of the Asian Automation Days from Cybiant. And while the Automation Days are focusing mostly on process automation, I wanted to also explore together with you the possibility of going one step back and see what the potential impact could be if you actually automate development, which is, of course, the foundation of process automation. And just on a personal note, when I was working on building a website in my early days, in the early 2000s, I was using Notepad and trying to create a website in HTML code. And after a couple of days for me realizing this, I came to the conclusion that this is something that, well, could have been done a little bit faster. I let that go in the end, but at the same time, there were a couple of people in Portugal who had the same thought around 20 years ago and decided to focus their effort on speeding up the development process using automation. And now, around 20 years later, they have conquered the world. They have around 350,000 community members. They are spread out around 70 countries, and they have also attracted investments from, among others, KKR and Tiger Global. I personally decided to join the ranks around 2 years ago to see what it is all about. And I can say that, yes, it is indeed way faster. The technology has been renamed to what we know nowadays as low code since 2016. And that's the topic that we would like to further explore. Now, before I dive deep into the low code terminology, I was curious to learn a little bit more about you. And I wanted to have one poll to get an idea of your experience, your personal experience with low code. So, Jan-Willem, if you wouldn't mind, would you be able to start the first poll to get a little bit idea of the audience?
Absolutely. So what I'm going to do is I'll start the poll first, which will have the exact same questions you will see on the screen. The poll will launch in your browser, so you will see it within a few seconds, and you will have the opportunity to start voting. So the question is, have you ever used low code in your organization? Answer 1, I never heard of it. Answer 2, I've heard of it, but I've never seen it in the wild. And answer 3 is, I live and breathe low code. Take a moment to answer your, submit your vote. I see a lot of people are voting already. We have almost half of the participants who've cast their vote already. So I'll open it up for another 30 seconds and then I'll show you the results. Good, the results keep pouring in, more and more coming. Around 10 seconds left before I close the poll. Good, and I think that this is an adequate result to show, so I'm going to show the results to everyone right now. So Floor, I would say you have a bit of a novice audience. Around 44% says that they never heard of low code, so I think you do need to do a bit of explanation. 38% that they've heard of it, but they've never seen it before, and only 19% say that they are very familiar with low code. So maybe to start with a bit of what low code is, it would actually be a good step to take.
Great, thank you for that. All right, let's kick it off. So one of the mantras within low code is, of course, why. Why is it here, right? So let me start with that and just throw in this first number or data point that we have. So a research from IDC explored that with the upcoming 3 years, we anticipate of around 500 million digital apps to be published. To give a bit of perspective, that is the same amount as the amount of apps that have been produced the last 40 years. So it's a hyperbolic growth, and you need to cope with that. Of course, companies, organizations are all struggling to find the right answers to this. We know that some companies that are disruptive have found the right formula. And when you dive into the characteristics of those companies, companies like Grab, companies like Uber and Netflix, there are a couple of characteristics that you see. When you look from the perspective of the CIO, those companies that I just mentioned, they manage to use digitalization to provide an amazing user experience and also to facilitate great paths in the pace within the innovation. What keeps the other organizations up at night from the CFO perspective are broken experience. When you go into a mobile application and you want to buy that new product, and after that you need to wait for 2 days for confirmation, for example. That's a broken experience which you want to fix. Another example is the slow change. So if you have a new product, how long does it take to polish that market or bring it to the market and to enable clients to actually buy it using your digital channels? Now, if you look from a CIO or a CTO perspective, if you look at the winners there, it's characterized by a future-proof architecture. They, of course, make use of the newest technology, so they have an advantage there. And at the same time, there is also not that much of a challenge in terms of getting the right talent, the top tech talent. On the other side, on the flip coin, if you look at the organizations, CIOs that are trying to catch up, their main challenges are debt, tech debt, legacy systems, but most importantly, the inability to hire or reskill their current employee base and support within the digital transformation. So here you got an overview of pain points that we see in the nowadays the digital world. Now, if you look at low code, it tries to support these challenges and try to take them away. And at the very base, it is a tool that enables developers to speed up basically development. To instead of writing a lot of lines of codes, remember actually the exercise that I was doing 20 years ago, you try to, or you make use of the modern interface, and you basically drag and drop, create a mobile application or a website right from the drop, as if you're building a PowerPoint presentation. Now, if we zoom in a bit more, then we have 4, I would say, components that are of great importance and that also tackle right away the challenges that I mentioned before. So first of all, the full stack, the developers who are able to cover all the different facets of developing a website within one tool. taking away that challenge of reskill or finding talents, because within this platform you can do it all. The second one is the integration. You can see low code as a universal socket, able to integrate with various tools. And on top of that, you also have the possibility to have access to the components developed by their global development pool. I just introduced it, and so the network. There are around 3,000 components that you are able to use for free from our internal forge. Then third, there's the full life cycle. This has to do with speed, right? So again, if you look at the likes of Netflix, they are able to do deployments that are in the thousands a day. When you use all the different technologies that are present there within the low-code platform, you're able to do the development, but also to automate the testing and to automate the deployment towards production. And I'm going to give you an example later there as well. And last but not least, the experience, right? So the amazing user experience. The low-code platform enables you to build applications within the mobiles, but also within tablet or in the website. So those are four, I would say, key components that really help and support and speed up development from a developer point of view. Now, I want to do one more poll to check and see and learn a bit about your estimate of what the impact could be on the speed of a developer using a low-code platform. Jan-Wim, would you like to introduce that one as well?
Absolutely. So I'm back again here to administer the poll. So in this second poll, we're going to have a look at the question, what is the impact of the speed of a developer in half a year compared to traditional coding? Is that answer number one, which is 2 times slower? Is it answer two similar? Is it answer 3, 1 to 2 times faster? Or answer number 4, 4 to 10 times faster? Time to cast your votes. I will leave the poll open for around another 20 seconds. I see a lot of people already started with voting. So thank you so much for that. That means everything is working on the screen. And we see quite a bit of different answers coming in. So I'll give you another 10 seconds to complete this poll. And then we'll have a quick look at the answers. I think I kind of know where this is heading. Yeah, so there's actually quite a bit of consensus. So I'm going to close the poll in 5 seconds. And yes, we're closing the poll right now. So results will be on the screen right now. So majority of people think that it's 4 to 10 times faster. And a significant part thinks it's also 1 to 2 times faster, 44%. And only 1% thinks that it's slower than the actual need of a developer to learn the code. So that's a bit of the outcome of the poll for this session.
Great.
Back to you, Floor.
Thank you, William. And to that one person, please reach out on a personal note to me so that I can explain a bit more in detail. I'm very happy that the introduction of low-code provided some guidance here, because indeed it is 4 to 10 times faster compared to what we call traditional code. There has been a lot of research and that points within that direction. Now, if we translate that to impact from a financial point of view, I would like to share this research that has been done dived a bit deeper into the total cost of ownership. And so what does it cost to actually create an application, but also to maintain it and keep it up and running? And then you see a clear difference between the initial cost of building the application, which can be done faster and with less resources. And then the annual costs, which is a combination of maintenance as well. And here you can also see that there are less resources, for example, necessary to maintain a certain application when it is built in low code. So this is focusing on the cost side. There's also another, I would say, major advantage, and that is speed, which works on the value side of the business case. Because what does it mean when you can develop 4 to 10 times faster? It also means that instead of a new application taking to build 1 to 2 years, you can actually build an application within 3 to 6 months, which greatly positively impacts the business case. So yeah, that's definitely the impact, and that's also something that is recognized throughout the world. So if you are looking at the research that has been done by Gartner, among others, they predict that around 2024, 65% of all the new software development will be done with low code or no code as well. So these are numbers to take into account. In addition, Forbes identified low code and no code as one of the most disruptive trends of 2021. I think it could be following the 2020 pandemic, of course, which pushed this even more, the push towards digitalization. Now, if you translate the use cases, the technologies to use cases that are being done with low code, you can divide them among 4 different type of use cases. So you have the customer experience transformation, which taps into that amazing user experience. You can use it to innovate the workplace, improve the productivity as well, among others, and the employee satisfaction. Process automation, which is of course of great interest here within this conference around automation per se, and application modernization. So this last use case is an example of legacy systems that could be migrated to a newer technology as well. Now, if you zoom into process automation, typical use cases that you see are, well, field inspection, safety apps, inventory management apps, dashboards. It all has to do with further improving the process and making it more efficient and faster. Now, enough talk from me. Let's put it a bit to work, and let's take a look at how fast low-code actually works and how it looks in practice. Jan-Willem, could I ask you to start the demo?
Absolutely. I'm starting the demo right now. Give me a quick second to open up the window.
Yeah.
Good. I think it's visible for everyone right now. Can you see the video as well?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Then I'm going. Let me say whenever you want to start it, and then.
Yeah, let's start it. Let's start it. Yes.
Okay. There we go.
All right. All right. Yeah. So what we're gonna do in this video is we're gonna build an application using OutSystems, just to give you an idea of what it looks like to use OutSystems in practice. So here I'm going to log in into the Studio Server Center from OutSystems using an account. And I'm just going to walk you through it a bit, what's going to happen. So I'm going to build a new application. I got 2 opportunities: using an existing app, building it from scratch. I'm building it from scratch. I'm also using a reactive app. I'm not going for a mobile application. I'm going to mention, I'm going to give it a name. It's going to be a customer management app, so a CRM. And I'm going to give it a color to create it as well. Now, then what you see next is the module that we just created. Here, this place, you can manage all the different modules. We're going to create only one module here, so I'm going forward. And here we are within OutSystems. This is basically what the developers see. On the top right, you can see the 4 dimensions within an application. So the process, the interface, the business logic, and the data. Now, we start with the data. So we create, as it is a customer app, we create the first entity, which is a customer. Now, you can also add characteristics of this customer. For example, the name, and another thing would be the address, and another characteristic could be the email address, and finally the mobile phone. Now you see below there, you see already some suggested activities. That's the AI from OutSystems that you could do. But in this case, we will not make use of it. We will go to the interface, which is basically the screens of the application that you're going to build. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to drag and drop that customer entity into the interface. And now the AI creates the suggested screen. So one is a list of all the customers, a list screen, and two is customer details, where you can actually add or manage the customers that you are adding. So here you can see the list that has been created. You can recognize the name, the address, and also the email and the phone. Now you can make some small adjustments here to the right, basically the same as Word. You want to capture it a bit better there. And to the left, you can use components to make it a bit more out there. So we have the mobile that has been adjusted. Now we're moving towards the customer details, and here you can see the logic that has already automatically been generated to create and save a customer. Now up there, you can see the publish button. So we're making this live. It has been pressed. First, it has been uploaded, the version is there, it has been compiled, and then finally it has been deployed. So that's how quick it basically goes. The button has turned blue, meaning it is finished, and then if we click on it, you can actually see a demo already in real life. So this would be what we have just been building. So we're logging in, you recognize the blue icon that we have created of the customer management app. So I'm logging in now, and here you can see the website that we have built, the application. I'm adding a customer just to prove that it works because the list was empty. So I'm using the legendary John Smith, everybody's best friend, as a customer to add it with an address, an email, and some unknown phone number. I'm going to press save, and then you see that John Smith have been added to the list of customers. So here, within, I think, barely 3 minutes, we have built, I would say, the foundation of a very simple CRM. So yeah, that's basically how fast you can build a website using low-code. This was a bit of the demo. Now I would like to go and continue with a live use case a use case from a customer to see a bit more about the speed.
Good. Well, first of all, let me say, Floor, this is probably the fastest way I've ever seen anybody build an application in just 3 minutes. So I'll stop sharing this screen, and then you can go back towards your presentation.
Thank you so much, Jan-Willem. All right, back to it. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you. All right, so yeah, we just saw 3 minutes, a very simple application. Now we want to bring it back to an actual use case. So here we have an energy company in the region, and they were challenged by three I would say, main pain points. So one, the processes that they had were a little bit less efficient because the applications that they had a low amount of usability. Meaning broken user experience. Second pain point was that changes took long because the technology that was used was end of life. So yeah, it took long to make the necessary adjustments. And then the third point was that the same technology also cost licenses. So the use case here is I would say a combination of two, and you can see that on top. And the process automation, making efficient processes, but also application modernization. Now the main ask of the client here was to do this fast because they were up for a new license within a couple of months. So they wanted to already migrate part of their applications to OutSystems, so that they could take that in consideration with the license. Now, what we did here is we did a couple of things. Main thing is that we were brought in to also train the customers during the code delivery so that they could continue the development themselves after the project was completed. And so we did the migration at the one end of the applications, and at the other end, we trained the internal team. Well, key thing that stood out, and that's the catchphrase that we used, is that in the end, we developed 16 applications within 16 weeks. They were a bit more complex, as the example that I just gave you through the demo. So to give you an idea, some applications were around contract management, other applications were about risk management, automating the risk procedures. So there was complexity and business logic involved. But still, we made it work with 16 apps in 16 weeks. I think this is a prime example of the speed of the platform, while at the same time also enabling the reskilling of the existing workforce. So I wanted to also share a couple of takeaways that I have in working with low-code. So one of the things that I always state to clients is that a typical OutSystems team only consists out of 2 to 3 developers. And what you see is in the mind of the client, it means, or it translates to the idea that there's not much necessary from the business side in terms of requirements, because there are only 3 developers. So, for example, we could work with a part-time BA. While in reality, because of low-code, you and the speed that it has, you're actually not working with a team of 3 developers. No, you're working with a team of around 10 to 15 developers in traditional code. And if you think of it in that way, if you see that workforce, you will definitely need enough capacity from the business side to what I call feed the beast, to have enough requirements in a ready state for the developers to continue working. So that's one of the lessons that I would like to share. Another thing is that when you're using low code, it is not only about technology, and there's more to it. If I would say it's a combination of, yes, technology, but also people/culture and processes. And if I give an example of the people/culture component, it is all about thinking from a product management mindset, having that in place. And the difference is that you're focusing on outcomes instead of output. So you need to constantly prioritize. And second, with regards to processes, I would say that you have to make use of the agile delivery process. That's one. But you also should make sure that the decision takers have enough mandate to make decisions fast. To give you an idea, if the team has to wait for multiple days to make a decision of the direction, it actually means that the team, and you just saw how big the team can be in reality, loses a lot of potential development days. So you have to make sure that you have the right mandate with the product owner to make the necessary decisions. Now, I also have a part where we dive into process automation. Before we do that, are there any questions about low code at this point?
So actually, yes, Floor, quite a number of questions have come in while you were presenting. So let me moderate, I would say, the most important parts so that we also can still cover the second part of your presentation. I've selected 2 main questions that I'm going to put on the screen right now. The first question is going to be from Kurt. Kurt, thanks so much for joining today. And this is a very interesting question that I also sometimes don't have the answer to, so I'm hoping to learn a little bit from you. What is the trend? Is it existing programmers moving to low code, or is it more of service owners starting to use low code? So where do you see, is it more coming from the development or more from the operations side?
No, I think it's both, to be honest. So developers can be easily like I just gave an example of a use case where the internal development team is getting reskilled within OutSystems rather easily. So there is a clear push from the developer side, because when they have experienced low code, they can see the true value and the speed of things. It allows them to focus more on the challenging parts, I would say, of the development. On the other hand, there's also a clear push, of course, from the service providers, because it enables them to be more efficient, to be more fast in their development as well. So I see that there is a push from both sides in this instance.
Good. Then I'm gonna go towards our next question. Next question is from Martin Bettman. Hi, Floor. Thanks so much for this interesting presentation. I recently came across the existence of no-code. Can you explain a bit on what is no-code and how it compares to low-code?
Hi, Martin. That's a great question. Thanks for asking that. So yeah, there is indeed a difference. So no-code is focusing mostly, or actually entirely, on front-end development. And there's no specific skill set or programming language that is necessary to master this. And this means that citizen developers from the business can use no-code to create applications. And the most famous example that I have is, of course, WordPress, where low-code actually combines the no-code advantages with relatively little programming experience to be able to build something, as you have just seen with the demo. It also combines the, I would say, advantages of having actual program management skills, which allows you to also build complex applications, enterprise applications, to involve logic and workflows. So that's I would say a combination of the best of both worlds, of both no-code and traditional code as we know it.
Good. So could I kind of summarize that you would still need to know a little bit more of technology for low code compared to no code?
If you want to build a complex application, then yes, you would need to have some programming background, of course, to involve the logic. If you want to build between brackets, a simple application that will greatly helps your department, you can also use low code. But yeah, keep it focused on the front end part.
Good. I saw one more question coming in, which I think is very relevant. So we'll quickly answer this one as well before we're moving on. And the question is from Mohammed Hasri, and that is also, I think, a very interesting one is, are there any limitations to low code?
That's a very good question. Yes. Indeed, the complexity, right? So you can do everything, but if you want to rebuild a very complex application, it will need that you also need to do a lot of actual development. Yeah, so there you're moving towards actual development. Now, another thing with low code is that you have to keep the governance in place, and you have to make sure that that the whole organization is suitable to actually deliver and get the most value out of it. So what I said earlier, it's not only about the technology, it's also about the culture and also about the processes. That's something to take note, because one of the, I would say, limitations is that it is empowering the developers to that extent that, well, you have a very large IT workforce to feed, right, with requirements.
Good. I see a thumbs going up from Mohammed Nasri, so I think you've answered the question. I think it's I'll leave it at these 3 questions for now, and then you can continue, and we'll open up for Q&A towards the end of the session.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. So yeah, this now I want to zoom in a bit about process automation, specifically RPA meets low code. So why I'm personally also very much interested within this combination, like Jan Willem stated earlier, I come from a Big Four background. I have also a black belt in Six Sigma, so I'm all about process improvements, using innovation to improve processes. And I believe with RPA and low code, we have a great combination to further improve processes. And this is also recognized by Forrester, where it is indicated that the combination of RPA with low code is the future in further improving processes and further automating them as well. Now, I wanted to share a couple of examples of how RPA can work together with OutSystems, how they can create synergies. So the first one here is RPA used to actually scrape an OutSystems application. So yeah, this is something that can actually be implemented. I can see examples here within Asia as well, where OutSystems is used. And RPA bots are used to basically provide the information necessary to OutSystems, the OutSystems application, to work and create the desired outcome there as well, making that process way more efficient. So this is a use case that I see quite a lot. Now there's also the other way around, where OutSystems is used as an orchestrator for the RPA bots. The OutSystems triggers the RPA bot. I recall that I mentioned the Forge, which is a repository of components that are used, can be used to integrate OutSystems with other technologies. One of those components is the UI path integrator, which allows OutSystems to be connected to RPA from UI path. Here we have an example from Reddit and Golf. It's a public example. And what you saw here, the challenge from Reddit and Golf, they are a multi-billion dollar company, and they are focused on IT distribution, redistribution. So what they're trying to build is sell is a great deal of IT components. Now they are using SAP as base. But they saw that there's a limited possibility to customize SAP. It will take a lot of time, and it will cost also quite a lot of investment. While at the same time, they're very dynamic because they need to have a lot of discounts integrated each time at the end of the quarter when their suppliers providing that as well. So what they did is they used OutSystems to build an orchestrator and direct RPA bots to scrape their emails, basically, and get the necessary information, capture that, and create Excels with overviews of all the discounts, rebates that would be there in the beginning of at the end of the quarter. Now, this was developed within 3 weeks. They had a team of around 11 full-time employees doing this manually. After this was developed in 3 weeks, it was able to reduce that manual mundane task with 33%. And more importantly, the accuracy improved as well. So here you can see the positive impact of combining both low-code and RPA in orchestrating basically a bot. And helping them to, fully utilize SAP, but in such a way that it doesn't take a lot of time or a lot of additional investment. Now, if you look at this combination, I would say that there are a lot of benefits, and that's why it's so appealing to use. So one, you, of course, reduce cost of staffing and human errors, that you could see in the example that I just mentioned. It also increases scalability, and it is relatively easy to implement. So yeah, it's great for the ROI, and I think it's a solution, this combination of RPA and low-code, that could really take a step within process automation. Now, if I summarize this, I would like to picture here the solution that we're looking at currently. And if I look at timing, you could use RPA to bridge the gap, to make a solution, and then finally use low code to fill in the eventual gap in the end. So here you can see the nice interplay between RPA and low code. I'm at the end of my presentation. Jan Willem, are there any Q&As of this last part?
Absolutely. And before I start the Q&A, I kind of wanted to say that I really like the analogy of the bridge and the filling it in as you pictured in the last slide. I think I'm going to use that one as well. Yes, we saw some more questions coming in, so we still have around 5 minutes in which we can moderate them. So if you have any additional questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. One question that came in from Mark, I'll put it on the screen right now, is low code only drag and drop, or do you also need to learn some programming language? And if I might extend a little bit on that question just from a personal interest point of view, if the answer to, because I think the answer to this question is probably yes. What kind of programming languages are we talking about? So maybe can you go a little bit in depth on that question as well?
Yeah. So indeed, the answer is yes. If you want to build a relatively simple, between brackets, application, there's no real need of learning that. You can use the no-code component. I think you've just seen an example with that during the demo. I don't have a strong programming background. I'm following the tutorial, so I'm able to do this as well. But if you want to build more complex applications, then yes, you would need to involve logic. You would need to involve programming as well, depending from the complexity and depending from the use case. OutSystems itself is based on .NET, so that would be one of the bases there.
Yeah, so you kind of need to build in .NET with all the extensions across on top of that. Is that correct?
Yes, but bear in mind that again, 90% of the activities are done with the drag and drop.
Okay, good. I also have another very interesting question from that I think we haven't discussed into a lot of depth yet. Is how about cross-platform interoperability? So the applications that you're showing is obviously a web application. How about mobile applications, iOS, Android? Can you go a little bit more in depth on how that would work?
Well, similar, right? So in the example that I just gave, indeed, I built a web application. What you could see at the beginning of the movie, we really went through it rather quickly. You could also click build a mobile application, which means that you actually are building a mobile application right from the bat. So that's one. You can either build a mobile there or a React web. Another possibility is, of course, is the use of PWA, where you use actually both. Use the same core code to create both technologies.
Good. So if I understand that correctly, it means that OutSystems, the software package, would automatically convert that towards the coding requirements required for the App Store and the Google Play Store. Is that correct?
Yes, but you still need to go through the process of
certification.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yes, you're right. You can easily build a mobile application within OutSystems. Both options apply. Good.
And you've probably been following the news as well in terms of the Fortnite and the kind of payment wars that are going on between the application stores. So suppose that I want to purchase something through an application that has been developed in OutSystems. Would I still need to go through the Apple iStore in order to get that certified and pay parts of that back to Apple?
I don't know the answer to that one. I would need to refrain for this question.
Okay, that's good. So yeah, I'm quite impressed. I think this was a very, very good demo and something that is completely in line with what we're trying to share in this conference, which is all about new technology and how automation is going to contribute to that. So I think we're out of questions. We're also out of time. So I would like to take a brief moment to really thank Floor very much for presenting today. I think this was a very, very interesting application and presentation. And if you want to get in touch with him, please connect with him on LinkedIn or reach out to us for his email address. We are going to get started in 15 minutes with our next presentation. And I'm very excited to announce that Sachin Vyas will be presenting our next presentation. Sachin is the president and CEO of Symphony Summit, one of the major technology companies focusing on IT asset management and IT service management. So I'm very happy to have him present our next session. So please be back in 50 minutes, take a quick break, and then we're going to start with our next session of Automation Days Asia. Thank you so much, Floor, and it was really a true pleasure to have you on the conference today.
Thanks for having me. Thanks.